Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable advisors from across the country. And joining me on this segment is Gene McGovern. He's the founder of McGovern Financial Advisors. Gene, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mark. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Gene, tell us a little bit about your work, and specifically, who are the types of folks that you specialize in helping?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Basically, I'm a one-man shop. I opened my own practice about 7 years ago, and I work primarily with people who are approaching retirement or perhaps just entered retirement, which is a big, major life transition and a time when people have lots of issues that come to the surface around, stopping working. Suddenly, they've spent a lifetime saving. They now have to start taking money out of savings and have a lot of questions about how to do that, or how and when to file for Social Security benefits, whether they should take a lump sum distribution from the company versus some kind of annuity. I mean, the number of questions goes on and on. But because it's a major time of transition, that's the time people often tend to call me to say, "Hey, I need some help." So that's kind of the overview of what I do, I guess.
So yes, so there's a lot of questions. Can you kind of boil it down to like, what do you think the one or two maybe biggest questions you get from those group of folks? What are the big questions?
Sure. Well, probably the biggest question of all is, do I have enough money to retire? Am I going to be, okay, or am I going to be eating cat food in 10 years? Or, that sort of basic understanding of, am I okay? I think is the fundamental question. And then that breaks down into things like, I've got these investments in my IRAs or my 401ks or maybe some other investments in a brokerage account. And are they invested in the right things? Do I have the right asset allocation? Where do I get income from all of a sudden when I'm not working anymore? So those are, kind of the big overarching questions for most people. How do I do this?
Do you find that a lot of folks have managed it themselves and kind of done a lot of Googling or research to kind of figure out how to do their own plan? Now that they're looking for professional advice, what are the situations they find themselves in? Why are they looking for that help if they've been doing it all along?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Mark. And in fact, that's kind of what I address up front on my website. What I say to people is, look, you probably are comfortable managing your own money. So if you're coming to me, I don't want to manage your money. I'm not going to take fees from you. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'll give you a good second opinion, objective, straightforward, hopefully well informed. But the notion is, they're coming to me more like you want a second opinion from another doctor to make sure that I'm on the right path. So, and look, nobody can know everything. Even as a certified financial planner, which I am, a CFP, and that's the gold standard in financial planning. You've got to keep current on lots and lots of different areas, whether it's investments, taxes, insurance, estate planning. New tax laws constantly get passed. So there's just a plethora of things to know, and it's very hard for the average person, even when they're reasonably well informed and read a lot in the financial press, to know that stuff. So I find people often just need, the assurance that someone else thinks, yes, you're on the right course. Maybe you need to make a few tweaks, but that's what you do.
Let's talk about this recent pandemic. Has it
Okay.
shifted anything in the advice that you give or the strategies that you suggest? Or has it just been a kind of a shift in mindset in what people are focusing on?
Yeah, no, I don't. The advice is timeless in the sense that, look, a financial planner is like me is always thinking in like a 30-year time horizon. So the short-term events and blips in the market and even pandemics pretty much aren't going to change the way we think about things. Certainly, you'd want to think about things like, do you have enough life insurance if you've got a young couple with children, and things like that. But primarily for some, in terms of retirement, no, it doesn't. The pandemic itself doesn't affect the advice I give. I think what it has done is, just based on my phone ringing a lot more, is that people are suddenly faced with the idea that, gee, I might not go back to work, or things can change for me, or I might die, or what happens to my family if I do. So I think people are more eager to get their affairs in order to have a sense that they've got the confidence that they can be okay. So that's I think maybe driving some of it.
So when you finally do give the second set of eyes on what people are doing, have you found any big common mistakes that everybody seems to make, or any pitfalls that they all commonly seem to fall into that you could warn people about?
Yeah. Well, I think, well, a couple of things I see sometimes, put it this way, and not necessarily mistakes, because there aren't any hard and fast right or wrong answers in financial planning. A lot of things are basically degrees, is one thing better than another, but, I do see people, for example, who like to buy individual stocks, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all like to gamble a little bit, perhaps. Uh, but if that's your whole portfolio, you really aren't going to probably do well in the long term, because you're probably not diversified enough. People tend to buy things, and then we have a bias toward the things that we own. We want to retain them. So, somebody has a stock that might have been doing poorly for years, but they're very reluctant to sell it because they just, it's their baby. They want to hold on to it, and so forth. So I think, lack of diversification, or not having the right kind of assets in place for, to support yourself over the long term, those kinds of things. Other mistakes, I don't know. I think in some cases people have claimed Social Security, perhaps too early. I always advise couples to try and have at least one of them wait till age 70 to claim, for a variety of reasons that, make sense for them. But, beyond that, it's just, being tax aware. Many people don't have a basic kind of insurance that virtually everybody should have, which is called umbrella liability. We all have homeowners insurance or renters insurance, and we have a car insurance. But, God forbid, if something really bad happens and, you injure someone, or someone's injured on your property, or, you're in a traffic accident and you get sued, you want to have protection over and above that. And umbrella liability insurance, not that I sell this stuff or anything, but it's dirt cheap. You can get $1 million of coverage for about, $100, $200 a year. So and most people just don't know about it or neglect to get it. And it's just a basic kind of protection that we like to see everybody have in place as part of their overall financial plan.
Right on. Gene, what inspired you to get in this field to begin with, and help people with their finances? How did you get started?
Great question. I'm actually retired. I had a 30-year career in professional law and tax publishing, and was a CEO of a company and worked for two big global firms. So had a lot of experience as an executive. I had an MBA degree in tax. So I had a good facility with numbers and financial planning to begin with. And I went, I'd say maybe around 10 or 15 years ago, I visited for the first time a financial planner myself, who was tremendously helpful. And so when I retired, I don't play golf, and I like to sit still. So I went back to school. I thought, it's like an adjacency, you step in a different part of the forest. So I went back to school for 18 months, became a certified financial planner, opened my practice, and never looked back. So it's the kind of work, and what's nice about it is I don't have to do this. I'm not dependent on the money, which makes me, I think, if anything, even more objective. I have no skin in the game in trying to sell you anything. I don't really care what you own or don't own. I'm just here to be helpful and to give back a little bit, which is what motivates me right now.
That's a great insight. And to that point, Gene, before asking my last question, for folks listening right now that know they need to get their financial house in order, but didn't know where to start exactly, what would you say is the most important thing they should consider when choosing an advisor to work with?
Number one is your advisor should be fee only, meaning that they don't accept sales commissions on products. That way, there's no conflict of interest. If somebody's telling you that you need insurance and then turns around and wants to sell you an insurance policy, that's a conflict of interest, and they should be at least disclosing that. So fee only advisors, I think, are the best way to go. Also, you want to ask about their compensation. How do they get paid? How much do they charge? Is anybody else paying them besides you as the client? Those fundamental things. And then beyond that, you may have if you don't want somebody to manage your money, you want to maybe look for somebody who, like me, is advice only, rather than fee only. Because I am fee only, but I also only give advice. I don't manage people's assets for them.
Terrific. So, Gene, for folks listening that would love to speak with you directly, how do they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Sure. Easiest way, Mark, is just to go to my website, which is McGovernFinancialAdvisors.com. And you can read all about me there, and you can sign up for an interview if you like, and we can go from there.
Gene, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your great insights with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
That was Gene McGovern, the founder of McGovern Financial Advisors. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.